This is a 2006 iMac Core 2 Duo and it runs Linux. Why is it running Linux? I wanted to find out if you could still use this iMac productively in 2019. And with macOS, you're not gonna go very far. You can only run 10.7. That's the latest it will run. You could install a later version than 10.7 by hacking it on there. It's supposed to work. I just never had luck doing this. I tried it multiple times with a variety of Mac versions and it just never worked great. Or you could also install Windows. Windows 7 runs pretty good on here, although it's a little bit of a resource hog compared to Xubuntu. And also Windows 7 will be unsupported next year. And so you might think of just going with a Linux distribution. Now note that this is a 32-bit Linux distribution. And that comes with some drawbacks. That doesn't mean though that this computer is not usable anymore. But I know this question is gonna come up. Why didn't you install the 64-bit? The thing is, these iMacs and just all old Macs from this era have a 32-bit EFI, which is a huge pile of shit because it just blocks 64-bit operating systems to boot, other than macOS, of course. Now there is a workaround. I know there is. I in fact got Windows 10 booting on this with 64, but you need a specialized edition of your Linux, and then you can install 64-bit. But I ran here 32-bit just because it was easier and I didn't want to mess up anything since I wanted to triple boot this, and so yeah. Nevertheless, this is only targeted to people who are not really pro users that don't need a lot of resources and a lot of power. So all we want to know is, can it do Office tasks, can it do web browsing, can it do YouTube, Amazon Prime, and just playback video files? That's what most people do, and so we will find out if it can do that. Now I have to say, Office tasks, these just work without a single issue at all. We've got here Libre Office installed, the latest version, and it runs very quick, and as you would expect, just easy to use. Of course, there is no Microsoft Office, but since you are choosing to go with Linux, I suppose you're not targeting for Microsoft Office anyway, and in my opinion, it's not necessary out there for 90% of all the people using text document and just word processing and spreadsheet stuff. But nevertheless, I know you could maybe get it to run with an emulator, but I will recommend you this. LibreOffice works great. It's not struggling. A little more interesting topic is web browsing. Can you browse the web on this iMac smoothly? Now, first of all, you have the benefit of getting the latest web browser. And that is so freaking important because with macOS 10.7, there is no up-to-date web browser anymore. And so you are at risk because of security. And people underestimate this, but when you have the latest web browser, you don't have to worry about this. And since you are on Linux and on a supported Linux, in this case 1804, you're getting the latest and greatest Firefox. And so this is only available on Windows and Linux. As funny as that is, on Mac, you can't get the latest one. So as you can see, 66, that's the latest one, and everything is up to date. So how does it perform, you might ask? Well, it performs pretty well. As you can see, I've got here Amazon loaded pretty quick, and YouTube before. We'll open up another tab. As you can see there, with another tab open, it's not as fast anymore. And that's because this machine only has 2 gigabytes of RAM. And I'm not sure if it could even upgrade it to more, but these 2 gigs is maybe a problem if you have a lot of stuff open. But if you only have one page at a time, it's really not an issue. Let's go to TheVerge.com. You can see The Verge loaded also pretty fast. And I also tested other browsers than Firefox, and now there's a little issue here. Okay, now it loaded. Well, that's still not bad for such an old computer, I would say. Let's browse around a little bit. Yeah, that's... I mean, come on. You can't say this is unusable. This is this is pretty good. Sure, it could be faster, you know, if you're used to modern computer, but this computer is from 2006. You just have to remember that. And for this, it's really not bad at all. Let's go to another website. Let's go to Microsoft.com. Yeah. Get it? Well, anyway, as you can see, Microsoft loaded pretty quick. So that was Firefox. I will also, of course, show you YouTube later, but I wanted to show you some more browsers. I've also installed Chromium, since the normal Chrome is not available on a 32-bit system, and unfortunately Opera isn't as well. But Chromium is. And how is Chromium performing? I would say just as good. For some reason on YouTube, I will show you then, it struggles a bit more than the next browser I will show you. But yeah, what can I say? I wouldn't use it. I'm not a big fan of Chromium, but it's more than usable. If you just go through the web pages, like do a little Google search, and then, you know, look at some products. Now, yes, it's not super fast, but again, compared to an out-of-date web browser on 10.7, you know, this is better than nothing, I would say, and it's surely not unusable. It's crazy, in my opinion, how usable this old iMac still is for just browsing the internet. And you might also say, oh, 2 gigabytes of RAM, that's so little, and I would agree, but there are so many modern computers selling with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Of course, very low-end machines, but crazy. So if you compare to that, well, then you're cutting edge, I guess. But still, I would say this iMac performs on the internet very well. It struggles a bit in Google Drive, I have to admit that. It works best in Chromium, well, duh. But it's a little sluggish at sometimes, but I also have to say we worked in some really hardcore spreadsheets, so maybe that was a little too much for it. But nevertheless, you can do it, and that's something you can't on macOS, or not properly. So here is the browser that I wanted to show you. This is a little bit of a surprise. This browser is called Vivaldi, or Vivaldi, you know, just like the musician, or no, not musician, well, anyway. And a friend of mine told me about this, since I was looking for 32-bit supported browsers, since 32-bit is, yes, it's somewhat outdated in today's age, and so not many browsers actually make 32-bit versions anymore. As I said, Chrome doesn't, and Opera doesn't, Firefox still does, and also Vivaldi. Vivaldi has an up-to-date 32-bit browser, and it's kind of flashy, and it's something to get used to. It's nice looking. I don't have ever seen it. I never saw it ever before I started using it here for this little project. But I have to say, I don't know what these guys did, but they really kicked ass. I think this is the best browser to use on this system. As you can see, boom, there you go. We got YouTube loaded, and we'll start here with a YouTube video playback. I've got here, I think that was the video. Yep. And in this browser, for some reason, it performs best. I don't know what they did, but they did it pretty good. So I will, needs a little time to get going. I will set it here to 720, because that one right now is 1080. And I know for some, you would like to know how does 1080p run, and I will show you later. Not so great as you just saw, but this is only 1440 by 900 screen, so it doesn't really make sense to play full HD, since this is not a full HD screen. Nevertheless, here is 720p, which is running okay. So yeah, as you can see, this is definitely watchable. There are almost no drop frames, just very teeny tiny ones. And now now it's totally smooth. So really not bad. I didn't expect that, to be honest, and I know that my MacBook Pro actually had problems. My 2007 one by just playing YouTube in 720p. Had some dropped frames here and there, but this one, not so bad. Not at all. So that is 720p, and now let's crank it up to 1080p. We'll not bother with 4K because, well, and that is 1080p right here. And as you can see on 1080p, it starts to struggle. So its limit is, I'd say, 720p. And yeah, that is totally fine since, again, the screen is not even 1080p. So yeah, that is the playback in Vivaldi. Now let's close out of Vivaldi. Vivaldi is great and everything, but it has one problem I figured out, and that is the Spotify web player and Amazon Prime Video doesn't work. It only works in Firefox. So if you are on this system, don't delete Firefox. You will need it at some point. So we got here, hopefully the video. Yep, the video is here. And the performance is not drastically worse, but it is worse. You will see that. So here's the same video again. And you want to play it or not? Huh, okay. Is it now in 1080 or is it 720? Let's let it sit a bit and maybe it can. Oh no, it froze up completely. Huh. So as you can see, I am not wrong by saying the Vivaldi is just way better, and these guys just did a great job, and the Firefox guys, not so much. But I know that some of you guys told me that Firefox uses by default only the CPU to play video back, so you could enable like 3D acceleration, and then maybe it gets better. But yeah, as you can see, in 720 here in Firefox it has dropped frames, and in Vivaldi not. So what I would do personally is for YouTube, I'd use Vivaldi and just general web browsing, and when I need Amazon Prime or Spotify, then I will go to Firefox. And Spotify, I'll show you real quick. Spotify would launch and everything just fine on the other browsers like Chromium and Vivaldi, but it wouldn't run, like it wouldn't play it back. I don't know, it would do everything fine until you click play, and then it would just do nothing. It would say an error occurred. But here in Firefox, as you can see, it plays it back. And yes, I will even turn on the sound. So because I'm just not caring for copyright too much. Plays it back just fine. Why am I showing you the Spotify web player? I'm showing you this since the client doesn't run on the 32-bit. It would run on the 64, but on the 32, no. But we got here the web player, which is, in my opinion, just as good. So yeah, that's not a problem to play your Spotify playlists. And also, same with Amazon. There's SpongeBob running in Firefox, and it only works in Firefox. Amazon Prime Video only works in Firefox. I don't know why. And also a big middle finger to Amazon for only having standard definition on Linux. This makes absolutely no sense. You can't have HD on Linux. Why? Why? Just why? So yeah, nevertheless, it does run, as you can see. That's why I showed you SpongeBob, since this is, standard definition. Okay, so as you can see, we can play YouTube, and we can play Amazon and Spotify. We can browse the web, and that's what most people do. So for such an old system, I think it performs very good, very good. I didn't expect that. So that was the internet part. For the next part, I'll show you a video playback. I've got here my NAS. Let's go into the YouTube videos, and let's play the Windows 2.3 installation video. It opens up by default in this Videos app, which I'm not the biggest fan of, to be honest. I think it looks good, but I think the VLC is just a better choice. I'm an old school VLC user, so here is a 1080p video playing back, and it's like such a shame that it's not perfect. It just has some teeny tiny dropped frames, and it's even at sometimes hard to notice. As you can see, I'm speaking here, and now you can't even notice it at all. And now it stuttered a bit, so it's just a little bit too slow to run 1080p. I'll try to launch it here. Maybe some jump a little forward. Why can't I do that? Maybe because I'm streaming it from the server, but that would make no sense, obviously. Okay, I got another video for you guys here. And now it seems to be running totally smooth. Just maybe again some very teeny tiny dropped frames. And that's a shame, but it's certainly not unusable. Like, not at all. Maybe check out this here. This is almost smooth. Like, I can't notice it. Right now it's perfect. So, what do I say? Is it usable? Hell yes! 1080p. So, that means 720 is no problem at all. And so, maybe watching your movies or something, you can do that without any issues. So, I think I showed you everything people usually do with their computers, and I can say my conclusion is this is the best operating system to run on this kind of Mac in 2019. This exact distribution. Why this exact one? The normal Ubuntu, while it looks fancier and has more features and everything, it just needs too much resources. It needs too much RAM, and this poor Mac only has 2 gigabytes of RAM, so you're slamming it just unnecessarily with some fancy interfaces. So if you go with this XFCE, it is slick. It only needs about 700 megabytes of RAM. Let me show you that. Let's go into system monitor here. Yeah, it's here around 657 megs, which is really good for an up-to-date operating system. So you still have a lot of spare RAM for your applications available, and also, in my opinion, it isn't as ugly as the LXD desktop. So you're not looking at an eyesore of an OS, but you still have a good amount of resources available. Okay, so what is my verdict? Should you do this? Here in the console, we got Ubuntu 18.04.2 LTS, so even the long-term support, so I don't have to worry about upgrading the distro anytime soon. Should you use this or not? Hell yes, use it. It is turning this old Mac, which is obsolete on OS X and soon on Windows 2, which turns it again into a usable machine in today's age. It is plenty fast for basic tasks. As you saw, the Core 2 Duo has plenty of power. The 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's a little low, but still, for what I have and what I'm getting back, it's insane. So this is not one of these like PowerPC Macs, which are just way too slow in today's age, or even the Core Duos, which are only 32-bit. This one, you can still use it, and I'm happy to say that. Honestly, I didn't expect such good usability, and I was expecting more loading times, more lag, and just overall more waiting, but it surprised me. It did pretty good. So Linux on an iMac Core 2 Duo, that's a thumbs up. You should definitely do that. Well, you should install the 64-bit version. You were just missing out on so much stuff with the 32. You're missing out on Chrome, on Opera, on a lot of applications. For example, Sea Lion, that's a program I use daily. I just wanted to test it for shits and giggles, and I couldn't because it's 64-bit. And you're missing out on Spotify, and you know it's gonna get worse eventually. And thankfully, we still have some mates that develop 32-bit browsers and software. By the way, I forgot to show you that. I got Notepad++ running with the Windows emulator, Wine, or, well, they say it's not an emulator, but I'm gonna call it an emulator. Anyhow, it runs perfectly, and so you could maybe even still try to get more Windows programs running when maybe Windows 7 is out of date and you just don't have a Linux variant for this program, for example. So yeah, this is my video about the iMac Core 2 Duo 2006 running Xubuntu. Great system, nice performance, and it really turns this old Mac into a, well, not fast machine, but usable machine again. And that's great. So thanks for watching, and see you later.